Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another day, another week here at the Damage War with me, John Iadarola, and it being Monday, the best damn day of the week and all. Here comes Jayar Jackson. Jayar, how's it going?
What's up, you guys? Actually, Monday is such a damn good day. I wasn't even gonna sit in. I was just gonna hang out and play around in another room, and then I decided to sit down finally, John. Good to see you guys.
People couldn't see, but you sat down in your chair seconds before the intro started.
And when he says seconds, he means one.
1 second, yes. I pluralized it out of respect for you. So two good things for JR this week. One, I'm assuming you didn't have the technical problems that you had last week, right?
Correct.
In a better mood. And two, coming off a big sports weekend. What a great time to be a Jayar Jackson.
Truth. Hey, listen, I mean, I know we're not gonna talk Super Bowl, and I understand it. You don't wanna hear about it. Neither does many of the folks that are watching, I'm sure. But I do want to just say, there was a small victory for one USC fighting on. Yes, Sam Darnold was quarterback at one University of Southern California, my school. I feel like we got a piece of that win as he won last night.
I'm glad that you did, and I am familiar with that name because despite your besmirching me, I watched some of that game. I watched as much of that Super Bowl as my daughter would allow me to amidst her fits and meltdowns. I watched
not a
some
sports
of it.
fan. She isn't, huh?
No, she was just having a bad day. Also not interested in football, but she was having a bad day. But anyway, yeah, I watched some of it, and we mostly watched like the first half, and it was I think the most boring Super Bowl I've ever seen in my life.
That is if you don't like defense. The defense was playing their asses off.
I don't really like. I mean, I appreciate a good defense. I just don't want too good defense like at the same time. That's not good. Anyway, we will in fact be talking a little bit about the Super Bowl, not the game part so much, but the halftime show, which a lot of people who love Bad Bunny tuned into, and every single person who hates him tuned into. So we're gonna have that for you, and then a whole lot most besides just that. Let's see, we've got more huge things just out there in the Epstein files that evidently aren't being investigated that we're gonna talk about. Some pretty shocking revelations and claims, updated information about the campaign to get rid of the worst of the worst. We'll see how that's going. And Steve Bannon really worried about the midterm chances of the Republicans because he's smart, see? And he can tell that by Trump doing all the things he's told him to do, he's now wildly unpopular. He's realizing that now. He liked it when he was asking him to do this stuff, but now he's very unpopular, and Steve Bannon wants to seem cooler than everyone else. And so he's warning Trump. So we'll talk about that, and we got a million other things too. Don't go to Florida. Mamdani ruined the weather. We got lots of fun. So, we're gonna check in on the box office for Melania after the second weekend. That's gonna be fun. So there's a lot to talk about. Hit the like button, share the stream. And with all that said, JR, are you ready to do this thing?
Let's do it, bro.
Okay, let's do it. Let's jump right into this.
At the Mar-a-Lago Super Bowl party, after the first two quarters, are the TVs going to be on the halftime show with Bad Bunny or the halftime show with Kid Rock?
I think the president would much prefer a Kid Rock performance over Bad Bunny, I must say that.
Except he watched Bad Bunny because we've got the evidence of that. So bad news for Kid Rock. Basically nobody was paying attention to him. Not even Donald Trump, who has so many partisan reasons to pretend to think that Kid Rock is interesting, as Carolyn Leavitt did there too. Imagine Carolyn Leavitt sitting down and paying attention to a Kid Rock performance. She ain't getting paid well enough to do that, propagandist though she is. So no, Donald Trump had his little party and he got all his little Republicans together, and they watched the Bad Bunny performance, even though they'd spent months leading up to it telling us nobody wants it, nobody's gonna watch it. And yet they, like every other conservative in the country, rushed to social media to talk about how they hated this thing that they didn't have to watch but chose to anyway. So here is the Truth Social post from Donald Trump, who says, "The Super Bowl halftime show is absolutely terrible. One of the worst ever. It makes no sense. It's an affront to the greatness of America." It's literally demonstrating the greatness of America. It doesn't represent our standards of success, creativity. You know, like how the Trump Kennedy Centers shut down for years because the right wing don't do art. Nobody understands a word this guy is saying. Look, I understand you have dementia and you're very confused by a lot of the words that you hear. He's speaking in Spanish. There are some people who understand it. I didn't, I did Duolingo for a few years, but I still was not able to follow anything that Bad Bunny was saying. That said, that's just because it's a different language. That's how languages work, buddy. Anyway, this show is a slap in the face to our country. Something stock market. There is nothing inspirational about this mess of a halftime show. And watch, it'll get great reviews because I know I'm just saying this because I'm mad and I peed my pants and real people will like it. But I want to get out in front of that. And by the way, something kickoff rule because Donald Trump can't get past the kickoff rule. So here's the thing. I watched some of the Super Bowl and I watched the Bad Bunny performance. I don't have a problem with Bad Bunny. I don't particularly love his music. I like him as a wrestler. I think he was pretty good on SNL. So I went into it with a pretty much an open mind. And I watched it and I did not understand pretty much a word that he said. But you know what? As music performances goes, totally fine. It was fine. I appreciated spotting Pedro Pascal and Jessica Alba in there very briefly. I liked the changes of venue that they did. I liked seeing the Ensign parade to start it off. That was entertaining. I don't see how it's a slap in the face to the country. I feel like, Jayar, and I'll get you in here. I feel like the right wingers were like, he's gonna say something about ICE, he's gonna hurt us, he's gonna make us look bad, he's gonna be so partisan. And so they just drafted all their tweets, but he didn't do that. The closest he came to being political is that like he acknowledged that there are other countries in our hemisphere. He showed their flags, I guess. He didn't talk about ICE, he didn't talk about immigration. He showed someone getting like an icy or something. Is that a slap in the face? Was it the 5-year-old kid? Was that the slap in the face? Was it the bodega? What was the tall grass? I don't understand, JR, what it is that they are performatively pretending to have an issue with here.
Well, the thing that they wanted to make sure people thought was that everything would be horrible before it even happened. That's why he went with the I can't understand a damn thing they're saying. I went to 2 Super Bowls, John Iadarola, and the halftime shows was Bruce Springsteen and The Who. I hated both shows. I say it all the time. Both of those shows, I was like, dang, I'm gonna do 2 Super Bowls in my entire life, and I get these 2 performances. And there's this weird thing. I barely understood what The Who was saying.
Yeah,
It's weird how that works. And when you don't understand what they're saying, you can do this one thing, you can sit and watch and go, oh, okay, that was a halftime show, wasn't that great? Hey, when's the 3rd quarter gonna start? Because who cares if you don't like the halftime show? I really don't care if you don't like the halftime show. But the thing is, the reason they didn't like the halftime show and they wanted to let everyone know that they didn't like the halftime show with their pre-written drafts about how much they hated it was only because they didn't want other people to pay attention and maybe see some of the messages in said halftime show. Maybe see the difference between all the hate that comes from this administration, talks about these very people, demonizes them, make sure that we separate them from their humanity, their culture, who they are, their contributions to the society and the world, making sure all that stuff that was exhibited in that halftime show, whether you understood a word or not, old man, whether or not you got it, you got something from it because it visually showed who these folks were and it showed how much they actually mean something to our society. That's what they don't want people to see. They know that if people have the unifying message behind someone else besides this white supremacist in the White House, that they might have a problem on their hands with people actually coming together and seeing what is we always said this country was supposed to be, but these white supremacists never actually believed in.
Yeah. Well, why don't we give some demonstrations of exactly what you're saying there? First of all, graphic 2, this is just the evidence that they were playing the halftime show, which I just change it. Just change the channel for 15 minutes. I don't understand why they watched it. It's because they love being angry. Laura Loomer says, someone calling an ICE raid at the Super Bowl. What are all of these foreign flags? Laura, are you triggered? Did the fabric make you feel uncomfortable? You need to deport someone because there's a flag that you don't like? I thought we had free speech. I thought corporations could do what they want. It's weird how easily triggered you are by a US citizen engaging in art that you don't personally prefer. Weird life that you lead. Charles Gasparino says, Bad Bunny sucked, but you knew that I peeked in. Oh, I was watching Turning Point, and evidently I got bored so quickly that I decided to switch over to watch Bad Bunny. He was watching Bad Bunny the entire time. That's the thing. And that was really good, just not good enough to like keep my attention so that I would watch it. Bad Bunny plays to a nation the left wants, but most of the nation doesn't. Look at his album sales, you jackass. He's doing fine. Shame on NFL commish for taking this great game into AOC territory. I don't even know what that means. I'm like, because they're both Puerto Rican or what? I literally don't even understand what his argument is. Gunther Eagleman says, lol, Bad Bunny's a flop. Half the stadium went in the tunnels to watch the TPUSA halftime show on their phones. That is some real, I'm going into these lib cafes and they keep saying they love Trump energy. No, Gunther Eagleman, none of that actually happened and you are a sad mofo. Meanwhile, this is what Bad Bunny was doing. It's just, he's got American flags and together we are America. That's the political statement, by the way, that the right absolutely hates. That we're better together, we always have been. That's what our country always has been. That's the statement that bothers them so goddamn much. Anyway, I want to just read one more freak out. This is Kash Patel's girlfriend, who's actually a bit nuanced compared to some of the others. Says, unpopular, Republicans need to unite and get on better messaging because this branding is fantastic and allows all Dems to get behind it. Also, super aesthetic. Sorry, Kash, I think she's saying that she thinks Bad Bunny's hot. But anyway, so yeah, that is good advertising. And then someone responds and says, this is disgusting. Can we just, all American halftime with Bad Bunny's disgusting? What is disgusting about it? So she responds, so I agree with you. I didn't watch the show, but the messaging is pretending to cosplay that they're proud to be Americans. I thought this show would be cross-dressing and anti-ICE. I'm hearing it wasn't. And I see all over the place the right not uniting. So hold on, so it wasn't any of those things that you thought it was gonna be, and you didn't see it, but you agree that it's disgusting, even though you didn't watch it, according to you. Who's cosplaying? Who's performing right now? Maybe he's actually proud of being an American in his way and not just in a way where you just want to deport people all day long. Like maybe there's a different way to be proud of being an American. And finally, I just got to acknowledge Jake Paul, like peeing his pants over this whole thing, complaining, calls Bad Bunny a fake citizen, which AOC responds and says, no, he's a citizen because that's what Puerto Ricans are. And then points out that it's the Pauls that moved to Puerto Rico to try to evade taxes or whatever, when he's actually doing things, funding low-income kids access to arts and sports programs and all of that stuff. These people are so pathetic, these crusty little weirdos. But they had their own art and it would be unfair of us. It would be unbalanced to not acknowledge their art. So let's turn to that. We want to acknowledge the other halftime show that happened yesterday. That is Turning Point USA that still exists for some reason. They had their halftime show and it was a little bit of a disaster despite what they want you to believe. First, they weren't able to broadcast in the places that they were hoping to. They said there were licensing restrictions, unable to stream the All-American Halftime Show on X. Head on over to our YouTube channel tonight around 8 p.m. to watch the full show. I don't know exactly what the issue was. Maybe it was understandable. Kind of feels like you'd know about the licensing issues more than like the day of the event, but it's a very professional organization that got going there. So it's streamed on everywhere you like to watch stuff like Rumble and TBN. I think we made up that acronym. I don't know what that is. Daily Wire Plus, OAN News, and the National Desk. Anyway, their stream had 5 million people watching it, which is a lot. It's a lot. And you know how much they enjoyed the event? You can actually tell if you watch this B-roll, okay? 5 million people, and they're enjoying these performances so much that they can't spare a second to post any comments. That's why the comments aren't updating, despite 5 million people being there. By the way, I've been on like Hassan's Twitch stream. He'll have like 60,000 people, and you literally cannot read any of the words. It's scrolling by so fast. Meanwhile, 5 million people are here, and they're not saying anything. So no, I have a feeling it was bots. I have a feeling that it's faked, and it wasn't the only thing that was faked. The performances faked too, because Kid Rock, who I believe has only ever performed Ba with the Ba his entire career, couldn't see fit to actually perform it. Instead, he just lip synced it, kind of. He didn't even really actively lip sync it. That's the one thing people want to hear out of you. And he goes on the stream and you can see his voice is coming out, his mouth isn't moving. We can actually show some shots of it or whatever. And that's what they were hoping people would tune in to see. And I don't really understand it. Now, look, Some of his lyrics are exciting. I will grant you that for a certain sort of like elite pedophile. They'd love lyrics like young ladies, I like them underage. See, some say that's statutory, but I say it's mandatory. That should pull in almost every pedophile in America. Maybe that's what the 5 million were. But yeah, maybe people were turned off by the weird stuff that he's said that surfaced recently. Like, back a long time ago, back when the Olsen twins were 14, and he said, why is every guy in America waiting for these chicks to turn 18? I mean, you know what I'm saying? If there's grass on the field, play ball. You know when he said that about how he wanted to have sex with these two 14-year-olds? You remember that? He's cool and very family friendly, JR. What do you think?
It's a story as old as the GOP themselves. I remember, was it Mike Huckabee had a show on Fox News, and he had on one of his favorite artists. I'm blanking on his name, but he always talked about little girls, and his lyrics said so. Mike Huckabee was jamming with them all the time. This is a disgusting artist, but it's always these folks, and they celebrate these people just for the sake of getting people's eyes away from this other show that honestly would show a completely different thing. If that's why also Kash Patel's girlfriend was talking about she hadn't seen it. Their main objective is don't watch it, you guys. Don't watch it, as they all watch it so they can then push some kind of political agenda. Everything is faked. Just like, the lip syncing of the show, just like the fake strings that were getting played. All of it is faked. Even their reactions, their love and their hate for it. They probably disliked both shows because there's no musicality or culture within any of these mindsets here. Their mindset is to, just propaganda and propaganda and propaganda. It's probably tiring. Everything has to be like stressed and written, and let's predetermine our response to this next thing. And all it is trying to promote this old, crusty white supremacist in the White House. Like the whole country's upside down based off of trying to cater to this group of a-holes. It's the weirdest thing. Just watch the damn show. Just watch the halftime show, bro.
Or don't. And shut up about it. Like, you can do that. By the way, I love Kash Patel's girlfriend. There's like an 85% chance that she really likes Bad Bunny, by the way. And she has to pretend not to. Isn't it crazy how all these like elites with all their power, they have to constantly pretend things, and we get to be free and just be like, I liked it or whatever. Like, you can just say that, but they can't. It's weird, it's weird. Yeah, two other things I just wanna say. One, I love this tweet that I saw. Your favorite guy says Kid Rock was the alternate name for Epstein Island. Which, yeah, I feel like with Kid Rock's lyrics would have made a lot of sense. Yeah, and the other thing is I just want to remind everyone, in the wake of the 2024 election, it was dark times, it wasn't fun. But one of the things that made it even worse was us being told by all these breathless op-eds, you libs don't get it. Conservatism is in. Conservatism is cool. Conservatism is maybe sexy, actually. That's where the culture's moving. You better get on board or you're gonna be run over. That's just what everybody wants right now. Really doesn't seem like it. It really doesn't seem like much of anyone is interested in this BS. No, they want Bad Bunny. I don't even like music. I don't even know why they want Bad Bunny, but that does seem to be what they want. Anyway, let's turn now to this. We talked about the music, let's talk about some of the video. Super Bowl commercial quality really feels like, to me, it's gone downhill in the last few years. I didn't really see any commercials that stood out in a good way to me, but there was some that stood out in a bad way, whether on TV or not. So despite railing against the use of AI a long time ago, Donald Trump and his movement now loves nothing more than they love AI. So when they released their own Super Bowl commercial, of course it was gonna be generated by AI. Take a look.
We don't do subtle.
Flying over the rope of America.
We don't limit our ambition, never have. We build big. We move fast. We bet on ourselves and don't apologize for winning. We say what we mean and we stand by it.
You don't know, now you know.
We are fully, proudly, and unapologetically American.
So I would just say it is a bad sign when to have video of the president and his wife, you have to ask a chat bot to generate it for you. You want video of me and my wife? I can show it to you on my phone because I spend time with her. That's one of the main differences between me and the Trumps. So there was some real footage there with lying voiceover saying we say what we mean and we stand by it. Neither of those things are remotely true. And then the rest of it was you needed to use AI to generate like 2 fans of football in the stands, a back shot of Donald Trump. Like when I make the case that all of this is a massive waste of time with no upside, every time I see more AI out there, it proves my goddamn point. Whether it's that ad, whether it's the commercial about how a guy needs to ask AI what an exhibit in a museum is when every single exhibit has a little card saying what it is. This is all a massive waste of time and resources. And as I've been pointing out, the right is eating it up. They freaking love AI, man, JR. What did you make of this ad?
Yeah, it's crazy. When it comes to the AI stuff, it's, even in things that are separate from, I guess the messaging of society about how this has taken over our world and our reality, literally. It's just another normalization of how we may see things. Eventually, I think this is the plan at least. Unless you see something that's generated by AI, you're not supposed to really believe in it or trust it or something. You're supposed to get further and further from what we see in front of our eyes and what we hear with our own ears. It's created and produced by them. This whole thing where they lied throughout that whole ad about how, we do what we say we're gonna do and deal with it, get with it. We don't celebrate and we don't apologize for winning. Bro, what have you won? Like this, you're winning? What are we winning? And they need that to be produced then in this situation as quickly as possible. The propaganda has to be coming out fast enough for then once you start breaking it down, they've got another lie out that they've already put forward because it's a rapid pace now. Outside of just their stupid messaging, it's a constant creation of how this AI has to be our new realities. We're no longer be taking pictures of ourselves. It's the back of Trump's head and Melania's, not really. And our existence will be created and exist through this manipulative system. I think that's a big, big part of it. But the main secondary part is the propaganda, which no one even believes anymore. They just have to keep saying it.
Yeah, they might well, as you say, not apologize for winning, but you know what they do? They lie about how much they won by, pretending it's a landslide when they didn't even get 50% of the vote. And they may not apologize for winning, but what they do? They do freak out when they lose. That's for damn. I'm not as worried about you apologize. I'm worried about the coups. I'm worried about the lies. I'm worried about trying to rig elections. That's the stuff that I'm worried about. The last thing I'm gonna say about this is one of the actual commercials I saw on TV. It was AI was everywhere. AI sports betting everywhere in the ads, just like crypto was a couple years ago. There's not as much of that because people have caught on that it's a massive scam. They haven't yet caught on with the AI necessarily. There was a whole thing, it was about kids growing up and they have all these experiences and they're out there doing experiments and they're doing coding and stuff like that. And then eventually the ad's like, just use our AI thing and just code. But like the kid who was having that lifetime of experiences was learning things. It's creating a perspective, it's creating experience that then ties into the stuff you're coding. Like, yeah, maybe with your AI thing, I can just code. Here's the issue. If there's something wrong with it, how am I supposed to fix that? How am I supposed to even know if I have no experience, if I haven't learned anything? If the clanker is doing all of the work, then only the clanker can fix the work, but the clanker didn't realize that it needed to be fixed in the first place. I see some massive problems here, but it's fine. Let's just throw a couple more $1 trillion into it until this entire bubble pops, we'll all lose our jobs. And along the way, we'll have created some really crappy commercials at least. Okay, with that, we're gonna take a short break. More to come after this.
It was Ted Nugent, John. It was Ted Nugent, that disgusting artist that Huckabee loved.
Yes, Ted Nugent, arguably as openly interested in pedophilia as Kid Rock. I'm not sure. That Olsen twin thing's really bad. Yeah. He said that on TV. That wasn't like it came out in the Epstein files. He saw 2 14-year-old girls and was like, why is everyone waiting? I want to have sex with them. And that's just out there. And again, man, the right, we say what we mean and we don't change it. Can you acknowledge that? Can you acknowledge that he said that? No, you can't. You can't. Can you acknowledge that Elon Musk was begging to party with Jeffrey? No, you can't. You can't speak honestly. You can't even acknowledge the truth. Okay, anyway, let's jump into some comments. I know there's a lot of people out there. Okay, let's see. Winston Smith says, Jayar always keeps us guessing when and if his show is gonna start. You missed one.
Yeah.
It's been fine.
Yeah. I mean, I was early today, bro.
There you go. Diego says, judging by the poor drunken lip sync performance, even Kid Rock wasn't paying attention to Kid Rock. By the way, if you're I don't like the lip sync thing isn't really the thing that bothers me the most. I don't know what percentage of artists lip sync or whatever. It's more the entire charade of this thing, of them pretending it's necessary, of pretending that what Bad Bunny did wasn't like inherently American and representing the experience of so many people. Like it's straight like. Hating it is one thing. I don't understand not liking it. Like I like seeing people feel seen. I like seeing people feel like, oh my God, that's us. That's our experience. It even had a goddamn wedding. You guys have been masturbating about how we all have to get married and start pumping out kids. They had a wedding at the Super Bowl and that wasn't enough for you people. Anyway, Amberjack says, I thought the halftime show was fine. My 2 years of Spanish classes failed me, but it was interesting to watch. Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell what a lot of English songs are saying. It's fine. Boomer Dragon Cat says, I really enjoyed Green Day. Walk Alone will be played at my funeral. I saw a little bit of that. X-Dog the Security Dragon says, they couldn't even AI him walking straight and tall. Even his AI version is still slumped over like the dopiest. Oh, that, I think that was real footage of Trump like, because that's how he walks, because he's a wreck. Anyway, Galfar acknowledged what I meant to during the clip, but forgot to. The Puppy Bowl outperformed TPUSA with 12 million viewers. Yeah, well, that had puppies. Most of those puppies were lip syncing, by the way. Those weren't authentic barks in the moment. Anyway, CD No Stock Dad sent a membership, which is super nice of you. Thank you for doing that. Dusty Jones is a member. Thank you. Appreciate you being here. I kicked a kitten. Oh, Kirsty Nome watches our show. I kicked a kitten, member for 33 months, says, did y'all see the live AI versions of the bowl game? Weird times we're in. No, I did not see that. Janet, hey Janet, member for 58 months, says some of the Epstein victims put out an ad during the Super Bowl. Very smart. Yes, no, that was a good use. Other time and resources, get some people thinking about it. Serafic says, do you think ICE presence will lower midterm voter turnout? They could just arrest people as they turn up /queue to vote. Do you think that's the plan? I do think that's the plan. I think they're openly talking about that. I don't have a good read on how likely it is to work, how many people they can deploy. I'm sure they're gonna try to do it. Alex K says in a super chat, I know you're catching up on nerd media, but you have to check out Wonder Man. In fact, everyone, please check it out ASAP. Such a well done and heartwarming show. I intend to. I will. I haven't even watched the Night of the Seven Kingdoms yet. I'm so behind. Producer Mike is consuming more Game of Thrones these days than me even. Anyway, okay, more news to come. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
That's a Game of Thrones thing?
Night of the Seven Kingdoms, yeah.
Sorry, sounds.
During the break, I'm trying to educate Jayar about nerd media. Anyway, with that said, why don't we jump back in the news? Start with this.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
You know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
He's seen the whole file, which is either honest or it's Bongino putting up whatever his reputation is supposed to be in defense of this cover-up. Now, Kash Patel, I find a little bit more trustworthy when he says he's seen it and he's looking at the camera like this. He's seen some stuff, man. You can trust that face. But anyway, the issue is that they said that last year. They were trying, remember, to put this all to bed. They didn't want you to ask any questions. They didn't want any more investigation. But more and more evidence is coming out implying that perhaps Epstein didn't actually kill himself. And it looks like it might have been the FBI that helped to cover it up. Now we're gonna jump through some of the evidence that we have. There's a lot of lingering questions as these documents have come out. But first, we're gonna start with the infamous missing minute of jailhouse tape. Remember, there's a minute missing from the tape they put out. And Pam Bondi tried to lie and say that every jailhouse tape is missing a minute. And then it turns out that's not true. And also it was missing more than a minute. So we're gonna get into all this, but let's jump into this video.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
You know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file.
I think we have another video. We might have an issue with our file. That's okay. We'll jump into the other evidence that we have. So here's what's been coming out recently. Newly released Department of Justice documents show that investigators reviewing the surveillance footage from the night of Jeffrey Epstein's death observed an orange-colored shape moving up a staircase towards the isolated locked tier where his cell was located. The final report by the Inspector General stated at approximately 10:39 p.m., an unidentified CO appeared to walk up the L tier stairway and then reappeared within view of the camera at 10:41. Now, I don't think anyone is actually trying to imply that Donald Trump himself killed Epstein. He's not the orange shape that was going up the stairs, but somebody perhaps in like a convict's uniform orange was going up there. And I guess we're just never gonna get to find out what that was about because Pam Bondi's not interested, Kash Patel, Dan Bongino have no questions. It's been in the files since back when they did that interview. Nobody's got any questions about it. Seems a little strange from where I'm sitting. Now, no official time of death was ever determined for Epstein. Again, very suspicious. But official reports state that he died by suicide sometime before 6:30 a.m. when a corrections officer came to a cell to deliver his breakfast and found him. One huge issue with that story is that, and this could just be a typo, maybe, the US Attorney's Office had already drafted multiple statements about Epstein's passing the day before. Now, you can see it right there. I am assuming that has to just be a typo, right? Because why would you put it together beforehand? And having somebody put it together beforehand adds extra people into whatever conspiracy we'd be thinking is going on. It seems needless. It seems too good to be true. But it is yet another thing out there that evidently no questions were asked about, no investigation. Shut up and move on, as Donald Trump says. I guess, JR, that's how we're supposed to respond to this. What do you think?
I would love for an easy follow-up question to things like what Kash Patel said was, you know, a suicide when you see one. Well, I mean, I guess we're all not investigators. How so? What is it about a suicide you see, you know when you see it as soon as you step into the room that confirms it was a suicide? What did you see then? Like they don't have any answers, and for some reason, no one asked. I get it was Maria Bartiromo. There's no way she was gonna ask them more questions, but there's so many holes, easily poked holes into these stories. I'm not sure why people just don't do it. Even if you're just curious, be like, oh man, that's interesting, Kash. How did you know so quickly? Because you must be so good at this. We trust you, right? They've told so many lies. They've been caught telling so many lies from the beginning to the end of anything. They were talking just specifically about the jailhouse footage from the video and the minute missing to Donald Trump saying he wasn't involved with the guy when he said he was, to the birthday book where he said he didn't really write that, to then we found out that we did. He was gonna sue the Wall Street Journal. Like it's countless levels of lies. From the first one you tell, it very obviously shows that you were lying about this piece of information. What leads us to continue to then, after you speak about this same subject again, to not have the first thought in your head is, yo, they lied about this before. They're liars. They're probably lying right now. Why do we have this re-up in some kind of confidence in their ability to lie? That when they've shown us that that's what they're doing, that every question follows should be, why did you guys lie about that? No one's asked them yet. Why did you lie about that, Pam Bondi? Because we know that you lied about it. Not let's discuss if you lied about it. We know it, it's concrete fact. Oddly, for some reason, when we see conspiracies, which this is, backed up by actual printed evidence, like the fact that they released this immediate release the day before they killed the guy, then why is it that we can't look at that and say, this is weird, can you guys answer for this? And then when they say no, the American people want to talk about it, just say, no, actually, I polled 100% of the American people, since we're getting outrageous. 100% of American people want to see about this. There's a newborn in Alabama who wants to hear about this. When are we gonna ask them the questions about answer for it? Or it's time to just move on and take some actions from the fact that we know why you're hiding all of this. It's very simple.
Yeah, and that's what they're doing. Pam Bondi, remember, started this whole thing by coming out and being like, oh yeah, by the way, we're done with that. Remember, like we did the binders with the influencers? Yeah, that was just for fun. No, we're done. Investigation over. So then everything blows up. And then what did we get a couple weeks ago? Todd Blanche comes out and says, we're done. That's it. We're not investigating anyone. That whole thing about like your littlest girl was very naughty. No, we're not gonna talk to that guy, and you don't get to know who he is. We're done, we're not investigating that. We're not doing any of this. The thing about the spy being tortured or whatever, No, you're just never gonna know what that is. I don't care, I'm not interested. Maybe it touches Trump, I don't know. People are pointing out how uncomfortable Dan Bongino looked while he was saying that, which yes. Now look, we can't judge him based on sweating. He's a sweaty dude under the best of circumstances. But there's also two possible explanations why he would be so uncomfortable. One is that he knows he's lying. He saw what was in the files or has an idea of what's in the files. And then he realizes, oh God, I'm setting fire to my reputation by participating in this. Or it could be that he said a bunch of stuff that turns out not to be true. He looks in the files, there's no evidence. And he's like, oh God, they're gonna hate me for saying there's nothing here when I kept telling them there was. I don't know for sure. Well, actually I do. I've seen enough of the files to know that they're lying and they're covering it up. They're lying and they're covering it up. And honestly, this kind of reminds me, and I'll end on this. It reminds me of when we were covering the Virginia gerrymander. At a certain point, something can be so over the top that it makes you uncomfortable. Like this cover up is so much that like I almost don't even want to look at it. Like it's supposed to be a thing where we're supposed to dig and like try to find out information and scrape together a couple things. You're just being punched in the face with this cover up every single day and being told to just move on. It's ridiculous. But anyway, we have a lot of other news to get to, so let's jump into this.
The president's focus and the focus of this administration is, of course, to remove public safety threats from the streets and to deport as many of the illegal criminals, especially the violent criminals that we know are still here because of the previous administration.
Yeah, see, that's a big old lie. Carolyn Levitt there is implying that they're focused. It's on criminals, no, violent criminals, no, murderous criminals, and that's who we're gonna get. And you've heard this so many times, haven't you? The worst of the worst. Sure, things may be very wasteful and expensive, and you see a lot of scary stuff out in the streets, but it's all in service of getting the worst of the worst. Well, I've been working very hard to make sure that nobody believes that massive lie. It's been a lie this entire time, and we have even more data to that end. Less than 14% of nearly 400,000 immigrants arrested by ICE in the first year of the Trump regime had charges or convictions for violent criminal offenses. That's according to the DHS. 14%. And you can see the breakdown here. That is everything, okay? That's assault, murder, robbery, rape, kidnapping, arson, all of it. 14%. Does it seem like that's what they were saying all along? Oh, we're gonna do all this stuff and we're hoping, about 1 in 10 or so, or the worst of the worst. No, they put out their social media posts and their fascist posters and everything. Oh, we're getting all these bad people. 14%. By the way, 400,000 people, ICE. So after all this, not even really that many because again, they're not doing it in a smart way. Also, like I feel a little bit bad for them, Jayar, that they only got 14 because there aren't that many murders, there aren't that many kidnappers, there aren't that many immigrant rapists. It turns out when you lie about that, it's hard to actually find them if they didn't actually exist. And by the way, some people, some right wingers might respond to this, well, first of all, they don't care that 86% didn't have any crime or no serious crimes because they don't consider them to be real people, they don't mind them getting deported or whatever. But even those who aren't that extreme might say, yeah, but they got them, right? I mean, there were some killers. I need you to understand, ICE, DHS, Border Patrol, all that existed prior to this last year. They deported people prior to this last year. They deported violent criminals prior to this last year. You need to compare this to the previous years to say that it's good or admirable or worth the horrible constitutional excesses and crimes that we've seen, the murders of American citizens. They're not even doing that. And the numbers of their face, not impressive. And not just when it comes to the crime, they're constantly telling us we're getting those trendy ragua, gotta get the gang leaders. Only 2% of ICE arrests involves people with alleged gang affiliations. And let me be clear, not that are gang people, that are alleged to be gang people. And we already know how widely they define that. You have like a Chicago Bulls jersey, then you're clearly trendy ragua. 2%, Jayar. It's basically nothing. We've gotten the worst of the worst, and they're in office. They control the DHS, they control ICE, they control the goddamn White House. And this is what they're doing with our time and money. What do you think?
Yeah, they don't have enough courage to actually say what it is that they want. Because then anytime this is brought up to anyone, be a pundit or someone's uncle, it's always, well, they broke the law by being in the country, and they have no idea how that law actually works, or the fact that they're going to these immigration proceedings, these people going through the normal system, and they're taking people from there as well. They just ignore all the realities of it. Because really what the objective is, what it is that he was saying during the campaign with the wink and a nod to all of the people that are supporting him was the same thing. We need to get these dirty brown immigrants out of the country. And then I'm gonna come up with any excuse that I can for it. That's why they went wild on the eating the dogs and the cats, man. They went crazy. It didn't matter what it was. They just brought things up and needed any bug to be in the ears of these racists to then excuse for their hatred. Just say it, bro, which they're kind of at least beginning to, is we just don't like these people. We believe that they're subhuman and therefore we need to run them out of the country that we invaded and stole from their ancestors in the first place. The same thing that we've always done. But the idea is to try and give you an excuse so that you don't look as bad as you really do when you have to answer for what your actions are, your objectives are, and then really what your beliefs are. It's cowardly, but stand by your racism. We already see it, it's on full display. Kind of like what Donald Trump did last week with that video.
Yeah, this is, and look, we're gonna keep giving these updates. We do it all the time. The 14, it's so low. And also, and my producer Mike made a good point earlier. It's lower than it was before. Like when we had previously reported on this, it was above 20%, I think, had been violent criminals. And that already was like a pathetically low number. But because this is now a full year, that means the latter half, it's lower than it was previously. They're getting more desperate to get anyone that they can deport. They're not putting more resources into getting the worst ones. They're putting the resources into getting the easiest ones to jack the numbers up. And by the way, they're not even really succeeding in that. Again, Obama deported way more people because he did it if your only goal is to deport a lot of people in a smarter way. Obviously, I disagreed with him about that. But just on sheer numbers and on actually getting the worst of the worst, this is a massive and massively wasteful failure. Okay, we're gonna take our second break. Lots more to get to after this. By the way, I think we're doing quite well on time, actually. I think we're doing okay, despite the Super Bowl and all that. Well, thank you, everybody.
Iadarola, high step a little bit, kid.
I should, all around this room. Let's see. Hold on. I wanted to give credit to Thomas, who had said, Kash Patel has the personality of a man being hunted by an ethereal terror only he can see. Like he's got that It Follows thing. Jayar, did you ever see It Follows?
Follow Us?
Movie?
No.
What's that?
Is it called Follow Us?
It Follows.
Oh, It Follows, not
the horror movie? Oh,
no.
That was a good horror movie. I like that one. Anyway, okay, let's see. Technology says Bongino always looks like something bigger than him just gave birth to him. Oh God, terrible. Lloyd CC, thank you for becoming a member. I do appreciate it. Love to see the new members. Huang Jun says, Kash Patel, quote, you know a suicide when you see one. Yeah, that's because you're so cross-eyed that the bending of the light allows you to see alternate dimensions where he did kill himself. Yeah, what does you know a suicide when you see one?
Totally.
That sounds more like, hey, it looks like one, right? Well, no, yeah, it looks like one. Nobody's questioning that it looks like a suicide. The theory is that you killed him and then posed him to look like he killed himself. Would, by definition, look like a suicide. Nobody thought that you were gonna hire a hitman to go in there, kill him, chop his head off and throw it to the other side of the room or whatever. That's not how suicides work. So anyway, yeah, so unconvincing. And he, by the way, still has his job, so bear that in mind. Okay, Gargoyle Dragon says, this weekend I went to go see Markiplier's, I think it's Markiplier, it's Iron Lung, he's a YouTuber, Iron Lung, and had a good spooky time. Also had to pass the theater showing Melania. All I saw were extra trash cans, definitely her and MAGA's crowd. That's funny. Yeah, I haven't seen, the only movie I've seen in theaters in quite a while is Send Help, which was quite good. I really did like that, and I recommend it. Iron Lung seems to have made a lot of money. I'm not familiar with it really though. It is cool to see a YouTuber, succeeding so much. Let's see, Gabby Carlson. Oh, Thomas says It Follows is exactly what I was thinking. Thank you. Okay, Gabby Carlson says, so they wanted a separate but equal halftime show. Interesting. And they still act confused and outraged when anyone suggests they're racist. 100%. It's DEI for washed up conservatives. Let's see. Colin Hutton says, Jake Paul is speaking on Bad Bunny because he knows Logan can't talk about WWE alumni, LOL. That is true. Also, Jake Paul's probably disappointed that Bad Bunny is just a more compelling wrestler than Logan Paul is at this point. Logan Paul's athletic, I'll give it to him, but that Bad Bunny, what was it, backlash match he had against Priest?
Was it Priest? Yeah.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. I love the flippy flips that Logan Paul does, but that doesn't necessarily make an amazing match. Bad Bunny had an amazing match. Okay, let's see. CD and Northstock Dad says in a super chat, so 5 million incels, or as I prefer to call them, volcells, voluntary celibates, watched the TPUSA show. Almost 200 million worldwide watched Bad Bunny. I don't know for sure about either of the numbers. I know that Bad Bunny got a lot more viewership. I
heard it was 135.4 million.
135. It's a lot of people. A lot of people
That's
saw
what I
it.
heard.
Star Marie says, keep Daft checking these bigots, fact checking these bigots. The cult is starting to cut itself off from reality. Yeah, that's some stuff. But I mean, you have seen some polling moving. That implies that they're acknowledging some of reality. They do seem to have an issue with Minneapolis, an issue with the Epstein files. I mean, there's a few little holes at least. We'll be right back.
Did you also know the Kid Rock performance, that whole thing was pre-recorded in a sound studio in Atlanta?
Breaking news. Jayar is telling me that the Kid Rock performance was pre-recorded.
That's what they
Why?
said. They said it was a sound stage in Atlanta. It wasn't even live. They had recorded that who knows how long before.
He literally is a performer.
I'm not sure about all the performances, but of course the people on the side, they're supposed to act like they're going crazy. That was like, it was like, you have a set. So you bring in people to be excited as a crowd.
So it was pre-recorded and he couldn't even perform live. Like
crazy?
He couldn't even actually, you pre-recorded lip syncing? At least Ashley Simpson live lip sunk on SNL. Jesus.
It's crazy.
Okay,
bro.
anyway, we do have a lot of other news to get to. So first though, I do want to let you know about a partnership that TYT is doing with Noble Mobile, the only wireless plan that pays you to use your phone less. Under normal circumstances, $50 a month gets you their Noble plan. That's unlimited data. Right now, it's $40 off. Yes, just $10 a month. And if you'd like more information, you want to find out more, you can scan that QR code available on the screen, or you can go to tyt.com/switch. And with that, let's jump into this.
They're all sitting there wondering we could lose the Senate. Well, step up and do something. You have a massive lack of enthusiasm among the base because they're sitting there going, I'm just not feeling it right now. And you have some of our best pollsters, Barris and Mitchell, are consistent. Texas 9. Now you're starting to see people say, hey, I got to take this in my own hands. We're going to do it. We're going to get motivated. This is one of the reasons we've shifted down to Texas. The all important, one of the biggest primaries in the history of the country for the United States Senate. Also, guess what? On 3 March, Sharia laws on the ballot.
Yep, Sharia law. It's gonna be coming. I've been hearing for decades. Any day now, it's gonna be coming. So that's Steve Bannon. So look, pros and cons. Pro, I like that he's scared. He should be scared. That's good. Con, I prefer his set where he had a quote from himself in the background. That was a real flex. Now he's just got the screen, unfortunately. But anyway, so look, we're gonna disagree with basically everything he says, except that it's good to acknowledge that he's worried. He's worried, as a lot of Republicans are, not just about the House, which they're very worried about, but about the Senate as well. And he points to the Texas primary. A lot of people are worried that if Ken Paxton is the Republican nominee, that puts that Senate seat more into play, which, look, if Tallarico Crockett wins that, that would be amazing and make it so much easier for the Democrats to take the Senate. So look, I guess credit to him, I suppose, for acknowledging that they're in a bad way. But Jayar, I'm gonna take back a lot of the credit because why, Steve, do people not feel enthusiastic? It's not an act of God. Donald Trump is doing all the stuff he said he was gonna do, right? He's gonna do big tariffs, he's gonna tax everybody, he's gonna invade cities with ICE, he's doing all that stuff. It's not an accident that people don't like it. They don't like it because it sucks, but it's the stuff you wanted him to do. He wasn't asking for him to do bipartisan stuff with the Democrats. He wasn't asking for him to, like forget all that tariff stuff and forget the tax cuts for the rich. Let's actually deliver for the American people. Let's look into single payer. Steve Bannon wasn't saying any of that stuff. No. And so I feel like they do this all the time. They ask for Trump to get in, they get the tax cuts that they want, but then they have to seem to be smarter and more independent. So they're the ones who can now criticize him, even though he's doing what they wanted. And by the way, they're not even really criticizing specifics. It's all vague. They're smarter, they're more moral, they're superior in some way. But again, this is, I think, the inevitable outcome of an incredibly unpopular, in reality, political platform. But Jayar, do you disagree? What do you think?
Well, the thing is, then they're seeing it. It's weird because he said, well, step up and do something. Bro, you were in front of an audience. Steve Bannon was in front of an audience, and his pitch was that if we lose these midterms, I'm going to jail. Bro, that's a pitch for people to vote for that to happen. I'm not sure what you think somebody's gonna step up and make happen. Also, we've seen these policies. We saw him run on these policies, Donald Trump running on these policies. And as they implemented these horrific policies that people were blatantly and openly against as he ran on them, take shape and look at exactly like what they described them to be. Either these people like Steve Bannon are so clueless that they thought sweeping up a bunch of people and murdering folks in the streets and having Trump armies running through our cities was gonna be something that people supported, or they knew it was gonna suck the way Donald Trump knew it would, and he's gonna start ignoring all these people who said, I voted for you, I thought you were gonna be a populist. He's ignoring them because he has no sense and really no care for democracy. He's a fascist, he's a dictator. What he wants is more violence, more anger. So he's looking to manipulate elections. Who cares about those? That was his plan from the beginning. I just don't know if people like Steve Bannon thought that that was gonna be the plan for them to win more elections based off of bad policies. I mean, he knew that Steve Bannon knew that Donald Trump lost in 2020. So why is it that he's just now figuring out that people aren't gonna like this either? Like, it's confusing. I'm trying to figure out where the fakeness, starts and then where all the bluster ends.
Yeah, let's also bear in mind the other stuff that Steve Bannon's been saying recently. When he says stand up and do something, I don't think he means like change your policies. I think he means rig the midterms. I think that's what Steve Bannon is saying. Also, I have one follow-up question for Steve Bannon. Why were you like best friends with Epstein many years after he was convicted of sex trafficking? Why were you buddy with him? Why were you swapping jokes with a notorious pedophile? Why were you doing that? And why aren't you addressing that on your show? It ain't because you don't have time. You have 4 hours a day. I feel like you could talk about why you were so desperate to be friends with this pedophile. Weird that you're not talking about that. But anyway, to get to the substance, we'll end on this. One of the things that is dragging Trump down is the economy. Take a look at this.
You said you inherited a mess from President Biden when it comes to the economy. But at what point is it on you? At what point are we in the Trump economy?
Oh, I'd say we're there now. I'm very proud of it.
Okay, well, he's proud of it. Okay, hey, he's taking responsibility. It's actually happening. He's taking responsibility. Now, he doesn't seem familiar with the economy. He doesn't seem to know what's happening out there. So I'll catch him up. Yeah, no, it's inflation, particularly on groceries. Stuff is getting more expensive. Ground beef up 15%. Now, if you want to do like steak and eggs, the eggs are down. We'll acknowledge that. Eggs are 30% cheaper, still pretty high, but they are down. Orange juice up, pork bacon up, sandwich bread up. That's the problem, man. Everything is up. And Donald Trump, by the way, his fundraising, weirdly also up. He's apparently sitting on $300 million plus. And he hasn't really talked to his party about how he's gonna spend that money because he's probably not gonna spend that money, further imperiling their chances of maintaining control of at least one house of Congress. But it isn't just the money that he's holding back. He's actually way more hesitant about making endorsements, particularly in the most important races. And we'll end on this. You remember Steve Bannon was saying, the Ken Paxton, Cornyn primary, super important, and it is. Do you know which side Trump is on? Because if you do, please write into me, because I'd love to know, because he's not formally getting involved. And I think I know why. It's because he knows that he really doesn't control things anymore. And he's really gun shy about being on the wrong side of an endorsement. So where he should be throwing his weight around the most in the races that truly matter, he's the most hesitant. He's shriveled up. He doesn't really want to say anything. He doesn't want to be wrong. He doesn't want to look like a lame duck. So you know what he's acting like? a lame duck. He's acting like someone who has no power to actually use. And it might, in this case, actually hurt the Republicans. Because if he were to come out on the side of John Cornyn, electorally, that would probably help the Republicans. But he's terrified of endorsing Cornyn, and then Paxton goes on to win. So he's not doing it. We'll see, maybe he will in the end. But right now, he's looking quite shrunken indeed. Okay, with that said, we only have 4 minutes. We need to jump into our final story, but don't worry, it's a fun one. Melania, the documentary or bribe to the ruling class from the richest man in the world, that actually did not have a second good week in the box office. It plunged to number 9. I didn't even know there were 9 movies in theaters right now, but it did, bringing in $2.37 million. That reflects a 67% decline in ticket sales from week 1 to week 2, despite an additional 300 theaters picking up the film, which that doesn't sound like normally how it works. Generally, your first weekend out is when you want to have the most screens. They threw even more into it, which represents, by the way, more money that Amazon is throwing out there, getting these theaters to put it on the screens. But despite that, it plunged quite a bit. Now, overall, it has made some money. It's brought in about $13.35 million domestically across 2 weekends, which for a documentary that isn't about nature or music is actually pretty high. Now, generally, there's not a lot of documentaries that play in theaters, and when they do, they don't play on thousands of screens, so perhaps it's not that surprising. But lest you believe that that means it's a success, no, it very much does not. Again, the overall budget, including marketing, was $75 million. It's now at $13.3 million. It's gonna have to have some legs on it to bring that money back, and I don't think it's going to. Now, Variety has reported that Super Bowl weekend is generally, I think understandably, a bad weekend for movie ticket sales. People usually don't want to go to the theater if they're already planning a big Super Bowl party. So maybe JR, Melania will bounce back in week 3 and start to justify the massive investment that Jeff Bezos put into it. But I'm gonna predict that that's not gonna happen.
What also makes me wonder, also, they don't realize that maybe the second week being Super Bowl weekend is a bad weekend. Maybe they should have launched a different weekend. I don't know the logistics and the planning that goes into when you're gonna, launch a movie. But I feel like, when you're a manipulative president of the United States and you're paying this guy and his company is paying you for this back and forth, this oligarchy that you got going, that you probably have some, some flexibility when you may be releasing movies. And maybe they should have seen this coming. It's a bad weekend to come out. But on top of all that, I think maybe the folks who wanted to see it went ahead and saw it, and anyone else just doesn't have the time, money, or energy to pay attention to this. Why should we give a damn? I keep coming back to that. Wait, what are we supposed to care and do about this film about Melania, who isn't even around? Like, this would be interesting for people who liked these folks if she was around. People hated Michelle Obama, the racists. They hated Michelle Obama, but at least she was around, and there's something as you've seen her in the spotlight, talking, being at events, doing whatever's her initiatives that she worked on. And maybe if you see a documentary about her life, you're like, I have something to connect that to because I've seen her as first lady now. Who cares? Melania Trump is never around. The most interesting thing about her is that she slaps this sumbitch's hand away every time that he reaches out towards her. And it sticks to her on accident every once in a while. And then she has to shun it some more.
She feels that rhino hide. Anyway, yeah, look, the reason that I care is because I will never miss an opportunity to point out the massive corruption and bribery. And I love that it didn't succeed. Like, imagine if it brought in $200 million, then Jeff Bezos could be like, you guys said it was a bribe. It wasn't a bribe, it was a good investment. But no amount of advertising is gonna make this make sense math-wise, and it makes him look insane, and it makes him look utterly corrupt. And I want the corruption to be as visible as possible. It's insane, and it shouldn't be legal. You should not be able to give $40 for the licensing. $28 million should not be able to go directly into Melania's pocket. And since it can, my final question: so what's the limit? Like, could they have paid $400 million? Could Jeff Bezos have transferred $4 billion? Is there any limit on this? Or can you just make a BS documentary and that's now your loophole for unlimited bribery? Could someone do this for AOC? Could someone do, hey, we want to find out more about chasing Buttigieg, so we're just gonna give Pete $500 million if he becomes president. Are you allowed to do that? These are not rhetorical questions. I really want to understand what the state of campaign finance regulations are. Anyway, with that said, we're gonna jump to the aftermath. We got a short break. If you're watching live, stick around. A lot more to come. Welcome back to the Aftermath, one and all. Lots of news to come, but first, don't forget about our sponsor, Noble Mobile. Save money by using your phone less and get unlimited data for just, right now, $10 a month for your first month at tyt.com/switch. Okay, we're gonna jump into your comments. We're gonna chit chat and all of that, but first, I just want to talk about some ridiculous news to mix things up. Let's jump into this. Conservatives appear to be struggling just a little bit to find things to complain about that they can throw at the feet of Zoran Mamdani. And the way that I know that is that they're now blaming him for not melting the snow fast enough. The New York Times is going all in on the snow being his fault, saying New York City's snow woes continue as giant icebergs, slushy streets, and trash piles ruin travel for everyone. And they call it the winter blunderland. New Yorkers are feeling left out in the cold more than a week after fierce winter storm Fern dumped over a foot of snow on the city and left behind iceberg-sized snow piles blocking roadways, bike lanes, sidewalks, and parking spots. First of all, you can't just call anything you want an iceberg, okay? I guarantee it is not the size of an iceberg. And also, that sounds bad. That sounds really inconvenient. As a person who grew up on the East Coast, I went to New York during the winter. That sounds rough, but you know what? It's the East Coast and it's winter. It happens. Blizzards happen. I experienced them my whole life. But then they do actually link it directly to the mayor, saying the wintry woes come as Mayor Zoran Mamdani faces heat for rising cold-related deaths, trash mounds, and other lingering problems following the two-day squall. He's more concerned about getting jackets that look cool when he does press conferences, because he once had a jacket that had a thing on it, and they're never going to stop talking about that ever, by the way. This is the Obama brown suit. Just get used to it. Anyway, the tally for those who've died outside since the storm rose apparently to 17, which does sound like a lot, but again, it's terrible winter weather. Mamdani didn't invent it, okay? He didn't invent exposure, okay? If you want to say specifically what he's doing wrong, you can do that. But when you just take literally an act of God, a winter storm, and lay it at his feet, it makes it seem as if there's nothing causally related to the mayor that you can actually blame him for. And we sort of have a demonstration of that in one more graphic. Kelly Jane Torrance, this is the New York Post's editor-at-large, went on Sky News Australia on Thursday to double down on the criticism. Quote, "It's just incredible how badly he has mismanaged his very first snowstorm. The snow is still here, a lot of it. We've got record cold temperatures really in the next day or so." Well, again, he doesn't control the temperatures, but she goes on to say, he's pro-criminal and suggests that New York is facing this possible breakdown in public order. I just want to remind everyone, they just finished what the NYPD calls the least shooting incidents month, the least shooting victims month, the least murders they've ever had in a January. Okay, but don't talk about that if the New York Post, don't talk about that. Talk about the fact that it got cold and precipitation solidified and it's still there, and say that that's his fault, okay? By the way, like have they pointed out like winter storms kill people in Texas? You could talk about that. It just seems so desperate, JR, to blame him for literally anything they can. What do you think?
It gets pretty cartoonish. It's a chance for people who maybe think there's a both sidesing of things, and there's these radicals on one side and these radicals on the other, and all they do is fight over nonsense things. So as folks are looking maybe to have some kind of policies that help with the economy that is being destroyed by this party, or the lack of healthcare, or the lack of jobs, the destruction of everything in this country, the funneling of money from overseas interests that we don't even know who they are, all the corruption that keeps flowing through, the way that this guy's tried to make money off of his presidency, has completely funneled money off of his presidency. And then you get the people who are like, Mamdani hasn't stopped the cold yet. Welcome those conversations. So yeah, give me all of your issues with Zoran Mamdani and talk about how he hasn't changed the cold yet. And then we can compare it to the guys in the White House and all the enablers around this Republican MAGA party that have been dispatched to also cover for that and protect all these pedophiles. But the difference is you guys are complaining about how he hasn't stopped the cold yet. Now, there is maybe something that people in leadership in cities and states can do when people are dying. Maybe they don't have enough resources, say, to heat their homes. Just like in the summertime, sometimes elderly folks die of extreme heat, like you mentioned, Texas. And sometimes there's programs where people get them air conditioning biggest things that they can survive off of. There's this weird thing. If you guys are so upset at Zoran Mamdani, maybe support some policies that will help people who don't have access to things like heating. Maybe help out with higher increased bills from things. Do you guys want to help with this whole thing? Maybe we should pitch in some more money together. We call these things taxes. And then the people who organize at the top can utilize that money to make sure that the majority of the people, as many people as possible, get assistance to then keep surviving, and then we can lessen the number of people dying. Are they on board for that?
Yeah. Here's the thing: if Mamdani cut the budget for snow removal, then yeah, maybe he's to blame. But if he had done that, do you think that the New York Post might have mentioned it? If he had done anything to lead to this outcome, don't you think that they would have mentioned that? And that makes it acceptable to, if you want to try to make a case. Jayar gave some examples. So like in the case of Texas, I'll end on this. We keep saying they have their own separate energy grid. They decided to do that. It's less reliable rather than being linked up to the national grid. They could change that. And then the next winter storm might not be as bad. They could weatherize their own independent weather grid for these extreme winter events. They choose not to do that. And so when it fails, it's not a surprise. It happens all the time. They're choosing for economic reasons not to do that. That means you can then criticize them for it. You don't criticize them because a storm happened. You criticize them because of the choices they made in advance of those storms. And so again, but they don't have that on Mamdani. Thus the flailing, the ridiculous gesticulations. Anyway, we're gonna jump into other news in just a sec. I'm gonna read one comment. Bernie the Kiwi Dragon with a super chat saying, another bad day for freedom of the press today. 78-year-old Hong Kong newspaper mogul Jimmy Lai sentenced to 20 years for endangering national security. Judges were vetted and there was no jury. Upsetting. I was not familiar with that. I'm gonna have to look into that. But thank you for letting us know about that, Bernie. I do appreciate it. Okay, with that said, let's jump into this.
If we could get the average American, because they feel healthy, they're vital, they're strong, they have agency over their future, to start working a year earlier, right out of high school, or work a year later, not retire, or work better during their lifetime because they're healthy, it would generate about $3 trillion. $3 trillion to the US economy. That would more than remove the debt.
So that video was Dr. Oz claiming that you need to grind out even more years of labor so that the problems that Washington and the rich and corporations have put onto you can maybe be fixed, when really they would just mismanage that money as well. He got a lot of pushback for that. And so he was doing an interview, he was asked about it, and here's what happened.
If we make our people healthier, they'll want to participate in life. You shouldn't work longer because you have to. You should work longer because you want to. You should retire, but you won't. Why not? Because you love the job and you're good at it.
You shouldn't retire.
No, I know. No, in theory.
I still wake up every morning and look forward to reporting the news.
That's it. That's what you want. You want to be here because you love it. If people get out of high school and we don't hold them back from being able to get a job and get involved in the work economy, if we don't provide ways for folks to leave the workforce, or they're forced to because they don't feel well because we're making them healthier, and if they want to work longer into their lives, I don't want to retire. I'm 65, right? Why would we retire?
Yeah, why? Why would I, Dr. Oz, why would you, Wolf Blitzer, want to retire? We're sitting at this nice desk. There's AC, there's a green room, there's craft services. I get paid millions of dollars. Why would I want to retire? And I assume that's the experience that everybody has, right? Dr. Oz, you're a scam artist. That's what you are. You've made a lot of money. You've been very successful by scamming people into buying products that don't actually do anything, and you get paid either way. And that is a great experience for you. Why wouldn't you want to keep doing that forever? But have you considered maybe trying working at Walmart or waiting tables, doing landscaping, doing literally any other job? Or don't even try, okay? But ask those people, how do you like the idea of working a couple more years before we allow you to rest for a year or two before you keel over? And no, there's just no consideration of that. And the thing, Jayar, that kept popping up in what he said is, everybody's gonna be so healthy that they would want to work more. Why? What is he pretending the Trump administration has done that's gonna make people more healthy? Did we suddenly get single payer healthcare and I missed it? Did I sleep in or something? They cut healthcare spending. They jacked up the price of people's health insurance premiums. In what way does less people, literally millions of less people have signed up for Obamacare than did the previous year thanks to the changes they made? How are those people going to be so virile suddenly, so much healthier that they can afford to work for extra years? He doesn't define it because he can't. The expectation is just, you need to work because we got this national debt, because we keep spending so much on national defense, even though we don't need to. We keep doing these corporate tax cuts, even though we don't need to. And sure, we could fix all of that by just uncapping the richest contribution into Social Security or something, or putting their personal or corporate tax rates back to where they were at in the 90s. That would solve all of our problems. But obviously I don't want to do that. Why should the rich have slightly less when you could just work more years? And that is a crappy message. It's weird, JR, that people don't feel like the Trump administration has their best interests at heart.
Well, but they still won't call it out exactly for what it is. Look, we've also had a drop in life expectancy too. Has Dr. Oz addressed that? Since we're talking about how much healthier America's gotten, I think it's dropped to 76 or something like that. I remember from last year, year before, there was numbers talking about how people are dying sooner. We see all kinds of factors. Maybe if they could look into that, they can get more of their, their working force to make sure elites have more money. Anybody that's become a billionaire did not simply do all this work themselves, even though they want to convince all of these people who did all this work for them to get to this point, who were exploited for that work. We know how it operates, but they still want to tell people who are the cogs in the system to continue to enrich these people that they need to do more. That's what unfettered capitalism does for you. You have nothing but an objective to continually press for more and more, squeeze more blood out of something that's already been drained. And the only way you do that is to force more of it. If you die off sooner, who cares? Have more children. We need more people in the workforce. You see how these things all work and come together? Also, on top of the fact that they're trying to deport all these people, that they're also creating these massive detention centers, not just for who they've called illegals, but for American citizens because they need more slave labor. You continue to squeeze this to the point where I need enslaved people to do more work because the greed is so, it's like there's no limit to it. That's all they want. And so he's out pitching this somehow as something where people are supposed to do something more for. Again, like you said, rather than them simply, as he says, the lowest people on the totem pole have to participate in society.
Yeah.
When are these sorry asses gonna start participating in society rather than just siphoning from it like some leeches?
That's what they are, and that's why we're at where we're at. Also, by the way, why do I have to work extra years? I keep being told by Elon Musk that AI is and robotics means that we're all gonna be super rich in less than 10 years, and we're all gonna have everything. In fact, don't even save for your own retirement. It's so inevitable at this point, and yet they want me to work more. Why is Donald Trump setting up these Trump accounts where if I invest a little bit of money now, maybe in a couple decades, my kids will have something? What's the point of that if AI and robotics is gonna solve all of our problems? By the way, they are literally investing all this technology, hoping that it will put us out of work, and yet telling us we need to work more. I guess while we're still allowed to by the economy. God damn, they're such ghouls. Okay, let's end with something a little bit lighter as we make fun of JD Vance and Ron DeSantis, starting with this.
Everybody is welcome to come and see this incredible event. I know we'll have visitors probably from close to 100 countries. We want them to come, we want them to celebrate, we want them to watch the game. But when the time is up, they'll have to go home. Otherwise, they'll have to talk to Secretary No.
Yeah, the World Cup's gonna be great and everybody's gonna come, but if we don't like you, we might deport you, because a lot of people buy extremely expensive tickets to watch sporting events so that they can stay in the country. That's a thing that happens. Well, look, the joke is sort of on them, or at least on Florida, because there's gonna be a couple of matches for the World Cup there. And ahead of it, the human rights organizations from all over the world, a bunch of them, and experts, activists are coming together to warn people, you might not want to visit Florida. They put out a press release. This is sent to The Travel. In it, civil rights groups, community, immigration, and human rights leaders said that there's been growing instances where international visitors, lawful residents, and even US citizens were, quote, detained, questioned, held in immigration custody, or removed from the United States following their encounters with ICE. And that is 100% true. We've been reporting on it for a long time. This travel warning comes just as Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has this new law enactment that requires all state and local officials in Florida to fully cooperate with ICE. There will be nowhere that you can hide from ICE in Florida, so they are free to harass you, maybe shoot you in the back of the head, detain you, deport a 5-year-old, all the stuff that they seem to get off on. And I want to give you a specific quote from this warning that was provided for international travelers. Tessa Petit is the executive director of the Florida Immigration Coalition and says, Florida is no longer a safe destination for international tourists. When federal and local agents can detain anyone at any time without cause and without identifying themselves, everyone is at risk. International visitors must ask themselves if a soccer match is worth the risk of being kidnapped and jailed until God knows when in deplorable conditions by a secret police who is using racial profiling, judging people for how they look or their accent, and getting away with literal murder in the streets of our country. And I agree with all of that. The only thing I would add is also just combing through your social media, maybe harassing you because they don't like something that you posted. And here are some of the risks specifically that they're saying World Cup travelers may face. Racial profiling based on appearance, language, or accent, prolonged unjust detention in inhumane conditions by masked or unidentified enforcement agents, deportation without due process or consular access, harassment at routine traffic stops, hotels, and tourist areas. And of course, those conditions that they reference there, you could face not only mistreatment based on prior medical conditions, physical abuse, sexual abuse, and people have actually been murdered in those detention facilities. And so, yeah, they like the idea, the Trump regime, of having all these people come in. They want to pretend that America is respected and people still want to visit, but a lot of people don't, and for very good reason, as laid out in that letter. Jayar, what do you think?
Yeah, this is what I was almost seeing. I think when this guy first came in office and he was bragging about World Cup, he's bragging about Olympics. It's like, bro, if these things, even before they started implementing them, and I knew it was coming, this is a cooling off period for anyone wanting to be here. Talk about destroying things. Everything that he talks about that he's turning into gold always ends up being destroyed. His military parade was supposed to be glorious, and look how piddly it was. He's talking about the 250-year anniversary. All these things that he said he brought and created, like, the Olympics should probably have his name on them by the time this guy's done with it. But that destroys things. I'm not sure, I can't verify it because I'm not in Las Vegas. But there was a woman there who said she was she posted about as a creator, about how the tourist nature of Las Vegas is kind of like, it's stark how few people are now there, are visiting, are at these restaurants. The economy of the local, like, we know Las Vegas is a tourist city, damn near completely. So as they get destroyed there, everybody is suffering. It's gonna happen when it comes to these types of things too. What makes people wanna see the Vice President of the United States say, if you come here, we're gonna attack you? What makes people have anything to do with that? And they're seeing attacks of people on the streets. If they're willing to do this to American citizens, why would an international visitor have any reason to come here when they already know who we've always been this whole time? They just tolerated it long enough.
Yeah, look, it's really sad because it should be cool that we've got the World Cup. That should be awesome, but it isn't really. And I want the Olympics to be cool. It's gonna be in LA in 2028. I'm finally gonna be able to go, but like, are people gonna wanna participate? We're hearing about these boycotts brewing, first for the World Cup, but then for the Olympics too. And I can't really blame them. I don't know why you'd wanna participate as either a viewer or as an athlete, considering all that's going on. And there's been other boycotts of the Olympics in the past 100 years. It's starting to feel pretty damn justified. And I know that when it happens, it's an opportunity for Trump and Vance to take ownership, maybe do a little bit of self-analysis of why we've gotten to this position, but they won't. They'll just attack them. They're already doing it. They'll badmouth the athletes. They'll badmouth the people for not showing up. They'll call it fake news. They'll put Kid Rock in a studio or something. But that doesn't make America great. None of this is making America great. Anyway, that's gonna be all the time that we have for this. Jayar, it's always a pleasure to start off the week with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you as always. Where can people catch more of you?
Yeah, good times. And every day, you guys, right before we come into John's show, we got the watch party. It's a live stream. We run this whole thing, and then the videos come up later on the channel afterwards. And very rarely, every once in a while, there's so much to talk about, you guys. every once in a while, I accidentally talk over like John's opening music, and that's it. It's a seamless, smooth transition. I promise.
It's happened 3 times ever. Anyway,
noon every day Eastern, noon Eastern, you guys.
Yes, everybody go check it out. I want to let people know, by the way, so tomorrow's going to be John Solo. Coming up on this Thursday, Luke Beasley's going to be back, which is going to be a lot of fun. I also wanted to let people know I'm going to be doing some appearances. I don't know exactly on what schedule they'll come out. I'll give you more information. But Ida Rodriguez has a podcast, Say What You Mean. I'm going to be appearing on that later this week. I'll let you know when it's going to come out and everything, but always love to talk with her. So that'll be coming soon. And so, yeah, a lot to look forward to. For now, though, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. We'll see you soon.